Hi everyone, it's Nicole and I'm here with the 5th layout using the Mayhip kit. I'm going to show you some of the stuff. I'm going to be using those Amy Tangerine templates, pink paisley 6x6 pattern papers, some puffy stickers, and these are mostly cut aparts, and then some of them are die cuts from the pink paisley die cut pack. And this is a pink paisley pattern paper, and it's sort of a ombre effect on one side in the aqua blue color, and then the other side is a white distress looking with little diamonds in all different colors. And I have to say that is my favorite side. I used it twice on this page. Now I'm going to use those two 6x6 pattern paper from pink paisley, and I am going to use them on this layout. Now, if I was thinking a little bit here, I would have put Josh to the right of the layout because he's facing towards the left. But you're going to see what I do at the end to try to compensate for that because I put him to the left. And, I try to, whenever I can, to put the subject in the photo kind of looking in towards the middle of the page, but you can see that the page is still going to look okay at the end. And this is what I'm going to do to kind of offset that, and you'll see that at the end. So I go through and I cut a whole bunch of little tickets from that pink paisley 6x6 pattern paper, which I don't end up using, but that's okay. And I'm just kind of trimming some of these because you can see part of the other die cut. I am going to use one 3x4 project life card on this, and I'm going to take another piece that was a cut apart, and it says here's the story, and the reason and that's going to be my title. And the reason I'm going to use that for my title is when we were in Ontario last April 2014, we had stopped in Toronto to shop a little bit before we went to my daughter's competition, and we went to this bookstore, and we must have spent a couple of hours in there looking for books. And then there was one of the guys that worked there. Oh man, he spent a ton of time with us, at least half an hour, talking about what kind of books my son liked, and he gave us all kinds of ideas of different books that we could get. And I'm going to use a lot of number 5s on this, and it's because we got him 5 books that trip, and then we went again another day to another bookstore and bought him a whole bunch. But in that store we had bought 5 books, so the die cuts with the number 5 on it was just appropriate. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to put some clear gesso because I don't want to hide that pattern paper. I really like it. So I'm drying it with my heat tool. And then I'm going to do a little bit of mixed media. And when I start a layout, I never know if, where I'm going. I kind of choose some colors, and usually I choose my picture afterward. And I find I can always find something to go with the colors that I've chosen, even if I don't choose my photo first and then the pictures. And because with the kit you're kind of restrained, or the kind of the palette is kind of pre-chosen for you, although you do have 2 sides. So if there's 9 pattern papers, you have 18 choices, right? And so that kind of expands it a little bit, and it's kind of fun in a way that you don't have your thousands of pattern papers that you have in your scrap room. And then you can kind of go from there. But I always find stuff or photos to go with each of the kits. That's not an issue. So the first thing I did was I used some packaging, put some paint on it, and those daubers came in the color add-on. It's called Electric Lime. I added some water and I smooshed it on the layout. Now I want to make some orange. So I took the yellow that came in the color add-on, and then I took the distress ink, the pink distress ink that came in a previous color add-on, and I'm going to make some orange because the 2 colors that I decided for this layout is going to be green and orange, and it matched perfectly with my son's shirt because he had an orange shirt on. Now I went to get my heavy gel, and I'm just going to mix it with that, and what it does too, it kind of tones down that orange, and I like that. And then I'm going to use the Amy Tangerine, the chevron arrows, And then I'm going to bring the cluster of photos in, and I'm going to try to figure out just so that I don't have to do it twice, because a lot of times if I don't check, I put it on and it's in the wrong spot. So if you take your cluster, you kind of go, yeah, it's about there. And then I'm going to put 2 rows of it at the top and 2 rows of it at the bottom. And I'm not being careful. I don't care if I get part chevrons or full chevrons. I just want some texture. And once that's done, I'm going to grab the template that has little triangles. And of course, I clean the template off right away before I do anything else, because it does make a mess if you don't. It's hard to clean off. And one thing I noticed too, the color pink must have just been put on after. Like, the template is not really pink, because the pink is coming off, and I think eventually my templates will be clear because it's half off on a lot of them. And that's okay. The template still works good, so that's fine. But if you notice that that's happening, I think it's because the color is not part of the template. It was just put over top, so it's not permanent. And so I cleaned the other template, and I made a mess on my mat. And I think it's because it's paint, and the paint is permanent, and it went on my mat, and I had some hard time getting that off. It took me, like, after I turned the video off, I went and got some, different kinds of detergents, and, tried to get it off. I got most of it off, but note to self, when I clean paints off my stencil, not to do it directly on the mat, because it makes a mess. So now I'm trying to figure out, if I want to put some vellum in there, and I'm kind of looking at it, and I thought, if I take one of those templates, the one that has the words, and I put some of that, because I still had some of that heavy gel stuff that I had made with the orange mixture that I had made. And so I put the words through that, or I put the modeling paste, the heavy gel, I keep calling modeling paste, the heavy gel through that. And then it's going to make some embellishments. And since I have extra gel left, I'm going to take my vellum again, and I'm going to take a few different templates, and I'm going to just use the rest up. And not necessarily that I thought I was going to use it on this layout, but I figured that I could use it on another layout within this kit, or I can just use it, any other time. So I'm just going to use the 2 flowers and the chevron arrows. And I'm going to use the rest of that paste, and then I'm going to clean off that mess. And a funny thing is, I actually did the voiceover for this video another time before or after a day shift, and it was probably one of the busiest, craziest day that I have seen in a long time. My brain was so mush when I got home, and I probably shouldn't have done a voiceover, but I wanted to get it done, and I listened to it today, and was it ever confusing? I was not finishing off my sentences, and I was like, there's no way I can put that up. It's so confusing. So I just trashed that, and I'm redoing it. So hopefully this one will be a little better. I had I'm not going to say a great night's sleep last night. I had a decent night's sleep, night's sleep last night. But anyway, I just thought that I would do it over and spare you guys the agony, because it was awful. So I took the other template too with the triangles, and I added more green paint, and I like the contrast that provides with the orange and the green. I love bright colors, love, love, love. And I love choosing a few colors and then going with it and choosing all the embellishments that coordinate with that. And I find it helps me use up my kits. And talking about kits, about a year ago, I think it was it was about a year ago, I had mentioned that I was working on a class to release, And then my health kind of went downhill. And I mean, I worked on it as far as, because I put down my ideas on paper first and everything, especially for a class, because I want it to be organized and thought of. And, I want to put a lot of work into it and really put a quality product out there. And where I was just so exhausted, I just put it on the back burner, kept working on what I was going to do on paper. And but now that I've had my procedure and I'm starting to have more energy, and I'm going to start working on it again. And I had mentioned last year that what I was going to do is I'm going to basically, because I work a lot with kits, but I'm not going to work with a pre-made kit. I'm going to kind of do it yourself kit. And I'm going to go through step by step with you how I came about choosing the kit that I did, and, the embellishments and everything. And then I'm going to go through step by step through the whole thing, and we are going to kill that kit. So then what you'll be able to do is come along with me. You can, if you have the same pattern papers as I choose, you can make the exact same kit that I did and go along and do the exact same pages, or you can make your own kit with the same principles and get the pages done. And I'm going to go through my whole thought process and about how I get so much done with these kits. And if you look back, I rarely add anything to the kits. Maybe at the very end I'll add a little bit of stuff, but I use everything that's in the kits. And it's a great way too to go through your stash, because I find when you have, let's face it, most of us have a ton of stuff. Unless, you're a brand new scrapbooker, we have a ton of stuff. So to kind of narrow it down and to go, bust our stash, I'm just going to go through all of that. So anyway, be on the lookout for that. I have 2 weeks off in August. I specifically took those 2 weeks off to work on this class, and I'm going to be working on it from the time I get up in the morning, from 6 in the morning till midnight if I have to. And so I'm going to get it done so that it's going to be ready for release in September. So be watching for that. So I don't want to spend too much time on that, but I'll have more updates on that soon. And so anyway, I cut, instead of using the template that I use, the heavy gel, instead of using the words all in a row, I cut it apart and then I used it as little embellishments throughout the layout. And then I added some puffy stickers, one of those Amy Tangerine tags, and it was in orange. And that's what I like to do when I go through these kits. I go, like on those puffy stickers, there was maybe 6 puffy stickers that were orange. There was one tag that was orange, or a couple of tags that was orange, and then just very few elements in the kit that were green. And but the paint was green, so that was a big help. And then there was some green cardstock too. So then I try to put those together and get a layout done with sort of the less prominent colors on the kit. And this is what I did to make sure that to add that little bit of extra to the left of the layout, I cut down the pattern paper to about 11 3/4 by 11 3/4, and instead of putting it in the center of the cardstock, I put it so that only 2 sides show on the cardstock. And then the rest of the pattern paper to the right and the bottom is flush with the cardstock. So it adds a little bit more to the left side. So that made me feel a little better. So that's it. That is the layout. And here are some close-ups. So if you're enjoying these videos, if you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up. And I hope you're having a wonderful week. So thanks for watching. Bye.